the Dauntless. Right, so ultimately you have to trust your senses. Your digestion is a little more robust than that, but if something smells funny or off, then don't eat or drink it. And if you're unsure of something, only have a few sips or nibbles of it. In an emergency, you can eat something fairly foul without too much of a side effect, but making a habit of that will lead to serious health concerns. A large amount of your digestion is now based on the idea of filtering out toxins and poisons. They'll save you from a lot, but they need time to rest and purify themselves for the next round. Modan explains to Falala as the officer emerges from the cafe with Teresa 86 in tow. But the thing I drank was sour and it was good, Falala protests. Yes, sour can be an amazing flavor. In the wild, it generally means that what you're eating is very safe as little else will be eating it, as it's digestible acid, usually citric and therefore very clean food. Heck, a lot of cleaning products use citric acid, Modan explains. I drank a cleaning product? Falala exclaims in shock. No, you drank an energy drink. Water is a cleaning product, so is air if used properly, but you have no problem ingesting either of those now, do you? Modan asks, in a tone that suggests she's being very, very silly. Hey, is that M&M? Someone calls out and he turns and sees one of the trawlers walking over. All the stupid little cults and conspiracies on the planet were more than 99% harmless or pointless, but the rare 1% were reason enough to have multiple teams of men just wandering through the city and catching whatever scraps of weird information gets thrown at them. He waves at them and the three men wander over, one of them outright catching a data chip literally thrown at them. Modan has no idea what it is about these men that has people utterly convinced they're message runners, but whatever it is, they have it, and Modan doesn't. What's this? He asks. Modan is mentally kicking himself as he only recognizes these men from his time in cruel space and when he came across them on janitorial duties, begging for more to do. He hadn't gotten their names then and regretted it now. Side effects of the Lacron silliness. Modan remarks, not exactly believing it himself. He still wants people that are closer to experts on the subject actually confirming it. This young lady now has a nearly human digestive tract and decided that meant human food was on the menu. She started with an energy drink. Caffeine high? The patrol asks and Modan nods. Geez. Well, at least it wasn't a sugar-high M&M she might have started licking you. That's the worst pun on my nickname I've heard in a while. Modan notes dryly and the man shrugs. M&M, Falala asks, even as the officer stops right next to the group. Miss, I cannot actually pronounce this name. Miss Urthani, Teresa 86, has declined to press charges for the damage to her property and the disruption of her business. I have received no reports of any further damages to property or persons, and unless Quartermaster Maji here would like to press charges. No, Maji states. Then you are free to go. Your family has been contacted and will be here shortly. I suggest avoiding flying between the spires at traffic level, the officer states. Now, are there any other considerations or concerns? No, officer. Thank you for your time and patience, Modan says, and she nods, gives a long, evaluating, clearly undressing them in her mind, look to him and the other men, and then heads back to her cruiser. Does everyone look at you like that? Falala asks in shock. Okay, just how recently did you come out of your cocoon? The unofficial head of the trawling group asks, and Modan can't help but nod to the question. This week? She asks. In the last 72 hours perchance? What time is it? An hour past midday. 50 hours ago? Give or take some minutes. And you've already been nearly arrested. Damn, good job, kid. That takes some get up and go. Don't encourage this, Modan snaps at him. Hey, I'm just saying, it takes a lot spunk to get damn near arrested mere days after puberty gives you a solid kick to the can. Do not encourage law-breaking, the officer shouts back even as she gets into her cruiser. Shit, she can hear us? One of the trawlers asks. Yes, I can hear you. At least wait until the officers have left before you start congratulating people for potentially criminal behavior. She calls back to them before slamming the door of the cruiser and finally taking off. Well, now that she's gone, congratulations on your potentially criminal behavior. The leader of the trawling team exclaims, and Modan groans in frustration as he pinches the bridge of his nose, and Falala just looks confused. Is this a normal human interaction? Teresa, 86, asks. Oh, this is tame, Modan remarks before suddenly moving and having the leader of the trawler team in a headlock. Stop being a bad influence, you cretin. Oh, hey, knock it off, the man shouts as he flails for a moment before punching Modan in the gut. Modan just stabilizes himself and starts rubbing his knuckles into the other man's scalp, interspersed with a few knocks on the top of his head. Stop being a bad influence. Now get back to work, you cretin, Modan says, letting the man go and giving him a shove that sends him staggering. You know I'm getting you back later, right? Looking forward to it. Now get, Modan orders, and with some laughter and apparently no less than 2 different organizations mistaking them for couriers, the trawling crew leaves. All right then, how about we head inside? We get Falala here something to settle her a bit more and wait for her family. After all, we've spent some time in Teresa 86 Cafe. It would be rude not to make a purchase, Modan offers. Oh, I knew I liked you for a reason. Teresa 86 gushes. Think he'll be that good when he's totally a dad? Mara asks. Like, even better, May replies. I don't get it. Why is this so... why aren't you angry or trying to press charges or getting upset with me? You're young and clearly didn't want to actually hurt anyone? Jadza asks. It's like totally hard to be angry at a girl you met when she introduced herself face first to your totally reinforced windows. Teresa 86 adds. It's the right thing to do. Modan finishes up. But I tried to eat you. I shot my proboscis at you. That's only for eating. Kiddo, in this galaxy, a man just has to be comfortable with the idea of being edible, one way or the other. Modan says with thinly veiled amusement. Wait, like what? You have to what? Falala asks, and Modan chuckles. Oh, innocent children, too easy, far too easy, he says fondly. I'm not a child, I'm fully developed. I left my cocoon and everything, Falala protests. It takes another 3 more years for an Earthani to fully develop after leaving the cocoon. Eve replies even as she opens the door to Teresa 86's cafe ahead of them. So a teenager then. I was one once. It's not the end of the world. Teresa 86, I think our young friend here needs a sampler platter. Something to test her newly changed palate. With plenty of water on the side to clear her mouth and hydrate, her new physiology needs a lot of water, which can make a caffeine rush worse if you're not properly hydrated. Certainly. And you? Actually make it 2 sampler platters, a bigger one for me. I don't know what half the things on the menu are. Jadza, Eve, May, Mara. I'm willing to cover the cost of everything. No, that's not appropriate. We should cover it. And Jadza begins. I'm the one bringing an extra person in, so I should pay. Modan replies. But you totally don't have to, honestly, Eve says, and Modan shakes his head. We can totally cover it. It's so adorable that you want to help a young lady like that. Real paternal instincts, Mara protests. I'm going to leave enough money to pay for all of us on the counter with a tip when we leave. So it can either be for the meal or it can just be an extra large tip for Teresa 86. Modan cuts off. But that's why are you totally insisting on this? May asks. Cultural reasons. I'm a provider. It's baked in. So you're showing off a womanly side? Falala asks incredulously, and Modan gives her a baffled look before sighing. He doesn't miss the fact that Teresa 86 is struggling not to laugh in amusement. Whoever wins this argument, she wins as well. These are masculine traits back home. Yes, well, you're like from the place where all light, life, and sense goes to die. I totally suppose it makes sense that you'll have things backwards, Eve says. Well, it's certainly exotic. A man that wants to keep pace in all aspects, that wants to sweep you up off your feet instead of the other way around? Have it all instinctual? Jadza asks, before letting out a strange but alluring sound, like a human impersonating a cat. How did you not get that impression already? You've seen me spar. All of you have seen me spar. I haven't, Falala pipes up. Except the kid. You all know that I'm deadly in a fight. I didn't, Falala adds, and Modan slowly turns to give her an incredulous look even as everyone else shakes with suppressed laughter. He turns back to the rest. What I'm saying is that this shouldn't be a surprise. I'm a trained soldier, a member of an army, with responsibilities and wages and training and duties and squads. I'm perfectly capable of paying, of being responsible, and more. But it's like one thing to be a totally hot male warrior from the savage stars of cruel space. There's been all kinds of movies about how totally hot that would be. But even the men in those movies are more masculine men and not just women in steaming hot man meat. Eve explains and then considers. That was a totally bad way of explaining that. Galactic trade is so limited as a language. I get it anyways. The idea of a cruel spaceman is more attractive than an actual cruel spaceman, is it? He asks with a teasing grin. No, that's not what I was trying to say, and I still haven't gotten your orders yet. I can get started now if you like, but Teresa 86 interrupts the bit of confusion as Falala decides it wouldn't be rude to sit down and ignore the scratch marks on the counter. They make their orders and the miniature debate as to who should pay gets passed around again. Modan insists he's going to leave the full payment and tip on the counter, and the girls insist that they can pay. Teresa 86 encourages all of them and gives Falala a look that promptly makes the girl look away when she suggests no one pay. I was just putting the option out. I don't think anyone's going to take it. Falala defends herself as she seems to grow even more comfortable. By the time the food arrives and just as it's set down in front of them, another Urthani rushes through the doors. Falala, a short chirp in Trill speech. Are you all right? The new Urthani asks as her antennae twitch every which way as she huffs and pants. She seems to shrink into herself as the cafe turns to regard her, and then she flutters forward a bit. Are you all right? Are you hurt? I knew it was a mistake to get you that stuff. The scanner said it was safe, but how can anything that was invented by monsters from beyond the black be safe? I'm fairly certain I should be offended by that. Modan notes dryly, and the older Urthani lets out a squeak of fright and tries to flutter back with Falala in her arms. But Falala has a grip of the base of the stool with her claws, and as the stool is riveted into the floor, she's not going anywhere. You're a human, the Urthani exclaims. Mom, this is Modan, right? That's right. Modan of the Maji family, or Modan Maji. I'm a quartermaster on the Dauntless and a fully sworn and soldier of the Undaunted. Your poison made my daughter go insane, the older Urthani accuses him. Mom, I'm fine, Falala insists. Madam, if you would please calm down. I'm fully willing to explain the situation to the best of my knowledge, although I am rather curious as to where you got the energy drink for your daughter to begin with.